Welcome to the Levels Podcast with Robert and Jack. First on the ballot today, we are talking about World Cup human rights. What do you have to think? I mean, we've seen many teams stand up for some of the human rights violations that are going on, and it seems like this World Cup could be called off maybe, or at least boycotted by a few of the teams.
I believe it will be boycotted. You already see FAs going into motion and boycotting the World Cup. I don't think it will be called off though, just because, you look at how much money has already been put into this big project that is the World Cup 2022. So, I don't think they will rescind the bid for Qatar, but there is so much uncertainty around this World Cup so far, and I've actually been following the news about the World Cup and the human rights and slave workers, quote unquote, from not quote unquote because it is slave labor, but from Yemen and all those countries. But it's very big news, and it feels like this kind of boycotting, at least for me personally, I feel like this should have been happening 2 years before the World Cup instead of a World Cup that is next summer. It feels like it's kind of too late to really have any action from FIFA in terms of the World Cup bid.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think it's too late. Too much money's already been invested into the facilities and the promotion and all of that. I don't think they're going to be able to 180 this, but I mean, I saw some numbers. I think it was 6,000 workers have been killed. Yeah. That is insane, and I think it's good that countries are standing up. But I think it might be too little, too late. I think when this was happening, they could have stopped it. They could have stopped the bid. But I feel like when it was happening, there wasn't enough press about it. Yeah. People weren't standing up to it, and now it's, I think, too little, too late.
Too little, too late. Yep.
But I think it'll be interesting to see if more teams come out, and I think if more teams come out, you could see with standing with the workers.
Right.
Against the human rights violations, I could see some real change happening. At first, I think it was Norway was one of the first ones, and now you see more and more and more gaining traction. And like we've seen maybe with like the Black Lives Matter movement within football and some of the anti-racism campaigns. I think this is on that same level with human rights, and we'll have to see what happens next. Next on the cards, Champions League and the draws. What do you have to say about the Champions League? Personally, I thought most of the teams that went through were what I thought, except for maybe Porto and Chelsea. And then, funny enough, they match up against each other in the draw.
I think it'll be a very entertaining draw. Me, myself, being an Atletico fan, I watched both legs against Chelsea, and Atletico played poorly. I can't make up any excuses for them not going through, but hopefully we can focus on the league now. But Chelsea looked very strong, and Porto had that Cinderella story that's kind of picking up traction, especially after the draw against Juventus. And I think Porto will put Chelsea to the sword. They'll really go for it, and they already have the story of the Juventus draw, so that's extra motivation for them to try and see how far they can go in the competition.
Yeah, you think they'll beat Chelsea?
I think it will be a very close draw. Chelsea are very strong. If you look at their record and their performances under Tuchel,
what are they, 13 unbeaten or something like that?
Oh, I think it's up to 16.
16?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
At least 12 of those are, if they've gotten 3 points from 12 of those matches. So.
And their defensive record has been really stellar lately. I've been kind of surprised because I never thought Chelsea would have a stellar defense. They showed it at moments in the beginning of the season, but after a couple of their injuries to key players like Thiago Silva, I really didn't think someone like Christensen, for instance, was going to step in and lead them to some good results. It's been amazing what Tuchel's been able to do in that short amount of time. Moving on to some of the other draws, I am wearing a PSG shirt. What do you think about that matchup? Almost a final in that matchup between Bayern Munich.
I think it was not even 6 months ago the Champions League final was played, and so that I think there will be a lot of there's a lot of things I think PSG left unsaid in that final. So I think they'll want to, especially with Neymar being back in the picture, I think they'll want to, make amends just just for them. And this is a strong side. Pochettino maybe he led Spurs to a final, but he's not necessarily the most proven manager in Europe.
Sure.
Right now.
I also think this is a much tougher task. I mean, his
Yeah.
road to the final in that one was a lot easier in my opinion. I think to prove it against Europe's the defending European champion, I think would be a tough ask. As much as I like PSG in this matchup, I hesitate to bet against someone like the likes of Lewandowski and Kimmich and all of them.
One thing I will say is Bayern and clean sheets haven't gone together this season. So with the likes of Neymar, Icardi, and Mbappe up top, and Di Maria coming off the bench, I think there will be lots of goals in this tie. Lewa is on unbreakable form right now. He's immense. He's been immense last season. He's just been immense his whole career, really. But it really feels like he's hitting his prime at this moment. So I think there will be lots of goals in this draw, and we'll see which defense comes out on top.
I was gonna say, I that's the funny thing is actually in this, I think most people look at this as a battle between two attacks. I see this as a battle between two defenses because both of them I think are unproven. They have good players in certain positions. I think for Bayern it's more the fullbacks.
Yep.
And then for PSG more the center backs. And I think that's going to be a great matchup to see how they can not stop, because you're not going to stop either of those attacks, but you're going to contain the likes of a Lewandowski or the likes of a Neymar and Mbappe. I mean, I think this will be a great tie. I still think that Bayern are going to see it through just based off of the midfield. I think that's where they're really, really strong.
Joshua Kimmich.
Yeah, he's
so good.
He's a warrior. So my pick's still Bayern, but I think it's going to be an entertaining tie. And then City. What do we think about City?
City Dortmund. It was very weird seeing Pep just kind of, not player wise. He fit in some players. He brought in Phil Foden, who's more of like a core player now. Gundogan is just unstoppable right now. He scored for Germany during the World Cup qualifiers, but very, very less attack. They still produce goals, but not compared to prior seasons. So it'll be very interesting. And then, maybe PSG last year in the Champions League in the second leg, but it's hard to find a team who's contained Erling Haaland.
Yeah, I mean, what a star! It seems like every game he's scoring some more. 2 goals against Köln, walking off the pitch. It seems like he's single-handedly keeping that side relevant, which is funny, especially after some of the departures last season of that Dortmund squad and Jadon Sancho not quite being on his top form. But I think it'll be interesting. You said they have had trouble scoring. I don't think they've had trouble scoring. I think that Man City, I think it's more that they don't have a number 9.
Yeah.
Which I think is different than how they've played in seasons past, and it was a question mark coming into the season. I thought Sergio Aguero would be coming back into the side, but it doesn't seem like Pep has that idea. He's played Kevin De Bruyne as a number 9, as a false 9 for some of the games, and it's going to be. I'm really curious to see what kind of lineup he puts out against Dortmund and how seriously he takes it. Hopefully, very seriously. But we've seen it. He has a tendency in Champions League matches to kind of underestimate the opposition, and I think it'll be really a great tie. The thing for me that just doesn't give Dortmund even a chance in this tie is that defense. That defense is an absolute shambles. I mean, they have conceded so many goals this season, and I know there's been some injuries, but against a team like Man City who are going to put you under pressure, while I know Dortmund's counterattack is going to be strong and they'll get some goals, no way they're going to be able to contain City's constant pressure over the 90 minutes and over the legs. I think that there's no chance for Dortmund in this tie. As much as I want to root for Dortmund, I had the Dortmund scarf in the background. No. I think City's got this all the way. Maybe Gundogan can get another goal. He's been on fire this season.
It would be. It's gonna be very interesting. There's not only the story of like the immovable object versus the unstoppable force in Man City's defense and Erling Haaland, but you've seen stories of Erling Haaland's father actually played for Manchester City in his career. So it'll be very interesting to see how Erling reacts to playing against that team, and you've seen all the rumors of Dortmund not accepting lower than like 180 million euros.
180 million.
But for a team like Manchester City, I don't think it will be an issue for them to.
No, I think that's pocket change for them, which is funny. But yeah, I'm very, very. I know that it's going to be a very big fee for Haaland over the summer, no matter where he goes. So it's going to be curious to see where he ends up. There's a lot of speculation in the media. Moving on, what do we think about this Madrid side? I'm kind of surprised they're still in this competition, to be honest. They almost got out in the group stage, which hadn't happened in so long for Real Madrid, the European powerhouse, against a Liverpool side who are not at their best, we can say in this moment.
And not the best in the league, but Liverpool have still proven it in the Champions League. Obviously, they haven't faced the strongest opposition, but I think because this Madrid side is really struggling for form, I say that they've consistently picked up points, so they've been on good form in that kind of aspect. But they're very two sides who are going through transitional phases. Madrid longer than Liverpool. Liverpool coming off a title-winning season, and then tons of injuries. I don't know which starting 11 players will be back in time for the draw, but it'll be very interesting. There's also the Ramos Salah story, so I'm very curious to see how that matchup works out too. But I think it's hard to call this one. I think both teams really struggle in defense, but they both have proven Madrid more relying on Benzema, and Liverpool hard to come by goals this season, but be very interesting to see how this one unfolds for sure.
I think the key player in this one is actually just on that Madrid side. I think if Sergio Ramos plays well, I think Madrid win. Yeah. I think I expect Benzema to do well. He's proven himself in Europe countless times, but I think Ramos is just such a hot and cold player at times that I think that if he's on his game, the Liverpool attack has already struggled to get going. If he could just contain them from the offset, I think it'll be really tough for them to get into this tie. At the same time, if he's not there, overall, I think Liverpool have more quality. I'm going to be honest. And especially with some of these guys that they're hopefully going to be getting back before the tie. Right. I think that they'll have a real shot to win this. I think Liverpool will win this, actually, which is kind of shocking. I don't know if I would normally say that. I think they're in a terrible run of form, but I think they're going to find a way to get out of it.
Yeah. As much as I'd love to see Madrid fall out of the Champions League, it's hard for me to call this one, at least in this moment, when the tie gets closer in a couple weeks and we see which players will be available for the tie. I think it will be easier to predict on my part, but right now I can't differentiate both sides. I think
if you had to choose one right now, you take Madrid?
I would take Madrid.
Okay.
I just think they're a stronger team right now. They're, they consistently picked up points in the league, not necessarily if it's 3 points, but Atletico falling off, and then the title race heating up with Barcelona coming back into it, and then Madrid have always been kind of just there on Atletico's tail as the season's gone on. Earlier in the season they struggled a lot, but it's Real Madrid. They're gonna find their way back into the top four.
I mean, European royalty. They are the three-peat. I mean, I think you can't discount that. At the same time, if it wasn't against someone like Liverpool, who has a great European pedigree, I would favor Real Madrid this side. They've been in this situation so many times. The thing is, it's against Liverpool. Liverpool know how to get through in the Champions League. They've done it so many times recently that I think this will be easily the best matchup. I think maybe PSG Bayern Munich. I think that's the one that most people are like, wow, this is gonna be the great match. I kind of think Real Madrid, Liverpool, Barca. Everybody's gonna tune into Barca PSG, and then once or Barca PSG, Real. Oh my God, PSG Bayern Munich, and once the PSG Bayern Munich game is like out of reach, they're gonna flip back to the Liverpool game, which is kind of funny. Liverpool Real Madrid. So
I'm very curious to see which center backs are available for Klopp when the tie comes around. I think Benzema can bully anyone off the ball, and you've seen it for countless years, and He's picked up great goal scoring form.
He likes the big games too. I think that's the thing about Benzema, and that's the reason why I think this will be a great game. Is honestly, I think that Real Madrid's attack is nowhere near that of Liverpool, just on paper. But I know that Benzema shows up in the big games, and I think he's guaranteed a goal. So we'll see. We'll see. It's gonna be a really fun round of the Champions League. We've kind of said a couple of our predictions, but maybe who do you have right now winning the Champions League?
Winning the Champions League?
It doesn't have to be. Obviously, there's a lot that's going to go on between now and then, but if you could place your bets on one team.
It's hard to argue against Bayern Munich. Just such a stunning side at the moment, and you have the Alaba transfer news coming out, but you look. The league form, it's dipped here and there. Bayern are known to drop points to sides they shouldn't drop points to. But in the Champions League, you look at all their matches, they always perform. It's Bayern Munich.
Yeah, they're a bit of a machine, and I think I would have to go with them too. I don't know though. Something about City this year kind of scares me.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with City. I don't know why, but I have a feeling that, especially that defense, for me, they have the best defense out of anybody left in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Which I think that's not something you normally would say with City. That's always been their Achilles heel. And I think in a knockout competition, that really favors them as opposed to some of the other City sides, which in attack were much stronger, in my opinion.
Right.
I'm going to go with City. But we'll see as these fixtures continue to see if even they get through to the next round. You never know.
Yeah, like you said earlier, Pep and quarterfinals is not always. They don't always blend. So.
What was it? Lyon.
Oh,
it was.
Yeah,
what was
Lyon, and then it was. Oh my gosh. They lost out to Barcelona. They lost out to.
They every year it seems they lose out to a team that you're like, no way they'll lose.
Yeah.
And guess what? They're pitted against Dortmund, and in my head I'm like, no way they'll lose.
You see what happens with Sevilla? Obviously, Sevilla and City are very different sides, but Sevilla coming off a Europa League title, doing well in the league, form kind of dropped off in the league, but you still expect them to perform in European competitions. That's when you think of Sevilla, you think of.
I mean, not that they're having a terrible season in the league. I mean, they're okay. They're about where they normally are.
They're about fifth, I think. But Sevilla, I expected them to do a lot better than they did. Their defense was always, Diego Carlos isn't, the greatest center back in the world, but their defense was always solid in European competitions. So it's very interesting to see them collapse to, not Dortmund, collapse to Haaland.
Yeah. I also think that Sevilla, they take it up a level in the European competition.
Yeah.
They take it very seriously. As we've said in the past, City not always taking the European competition very seriously. When I look at Sevilla, every time they go into the Europa League and they want to win it. They want to win it every time. It's kind of like Real Madrid in the Champions League.
Yeah.
And
so it was very interesting because at least for me, I've been following La Liga for a certain amount of time, and Sevilla comes with that, and I watch how they do in European competition. It was very interesting. I thought if there was 1 year for Sevilla to really go far and prove themselves in the Champions League, it was this year. Lopetegui has been playing brilliant football, and he has been playing very well. But I think they're still 2-3 years out from really becoming like a Champions League mainstay.
Yeah,
that's. This is La Liga, but you felt that, and it's kind of going off topic, but you felt that with the Valencia side under Marcelino. 2 consecutive top 4 finishes, Copa del Rey final win against Barcelona. That he had them playing really good football, but then Peter Lim. But aside from that, that's just my take on it.
No, but I think some of these. I feel like La Liga is to transition a bit to a La Liga. I think it's been in a very interesting place right now. I mean, I can't remember the last time where Barcelona and Real Madrid were not at the top, and not just the clear leaders.
Right.
While this league is definitely not over, I mean, Atletico are in the lead right now, and it looks like they're going to be at least in it until the end. Yeah. At the worst case, at the best case, winning the league. Did you see this coming? Where both teams dropping off? Obviously, they've lost some talent over the years, and I think we knew that it wasn't going to be prime Barcelona and prime Real Madrid. But I mean, Messi is out of the Champions League. Crazy, and Ronaldo at Juventus.
Yeah, I think as much as I think it was just all these little things building up, and some people did notice at the time. Very big Barcelona and Real Madrid supporters. They did see this piling up, and obviously everyone talks about Bartomeu and what he did to the club, but once you look back, you do see this. I don't think personally I saw as big as a drop off as what has happened with both clubs. I think Real Madrid is in a better state.
Oh, for sure.
Obviously, because Barcelona have all that debt. They have Messi, who's teetering between leaving his club and then going to a different club. And I did not expect Barcelona to be in the state they are now. Obviously, I knew about their debt and I knew about the issues behind the scenes with the board, but wow, Barcelona are in shambles.
Yeah.
And, Koeman has stabilized just the first team squad.
Yeah.
Obviously he doesn't have much influence when it comes to the board, and he has a say in transfers and all that, but he's stabilized the on-pitch performances, and they've been in great form under Koeman for the last 12 matches, but I don't think I expected the drop-off Barcelona had. And Real Madrid, bringing in Eden Hazard, and that's its own story, but losing Cristiano Ronaldo, which was a guaranteed 40-50 goals a season, you're not going to replace that.
Yeah,
so
I think you're right about that. I think when I actually look at it, for me, it looks like financial mismanagement more than anything. Even in Real Madrid's side, which I think is a little unlucky more than their side, where I see Barcelona is more systemic.
Mm-hmm.
That was 180 million. That's 180 million that has produced 10 goals since he's come, maybe a little bit more. That's not enough. That's not enough, and that's why I think they're in the conversation for bringing in someone like an Erling Haaland, because I think they need a bit of killer instinct and quality injected into the side. I think both teams do, honestly.
Yeah.
When you have Martin Braithwaite and you're starting 11, you're going to be in trouble for Barcelona. But I will say they both have pieces, and they both have good young talent in certain areas. I think they'll get over this. But it is very surprising to see this in two leagues, in La Liga and Serie A, where normally you have two teams winning, or in La Liga it's a mixture. It's either one of the three, but really one of the two. I'm surprised that someone not named Real Madrid, Barcelona, or Juventus have won, both of those leagues. So
yeah, and to add on to the financial mismanagement, I thought it was very funny. Barcelona was going through the thing with Coutinho and Ousmane Dembele, and then everyone was praising Real Madrid for Marco Asensio, Vinicius, Rodrigo, Isco a little bit before those players. All these players who, it wasn't eye-watering money, but it wasn't a small fee. It was around 25 to 40 million euros, depending on the player, and you look at how those players have performed. Isco performed very well for Real Madrid, but if you look at him now,
Ted's washed. I was very surprised. I mean, I remember watching them come on in the Champions League and put in some really good performances, and then, my goodness, it's just it all dropped off, and it was kind of funny. They took two different routes, where Barcelona kind of just splashed a ton of cash on a few players, while Real Madrid, it looked smarter in the moment, spread it out across a couple of players. What I will say is I think that the Real Madrid's players are a bit younger, and so I think they're going to be able to develop and continue. And also, even Vinicius, who obviously hasn't had the greatest time at Real Madrid, I think there's some resale value. There's some, he's still very young. He's shown moments. Same with Rodrigo. I mean, I think that they could turn into some good players. Well, where I look at Barcelona's, De Jong is the one that he's a good player. He can develop into something, but and I mean, there's a couple of decent players in there as well, but Griezmann, that's brutal.
I was very sad to see Griezmann leave, cause, how much he gave Atletico, and where he gotten with them, and I'm still sour about the transfer and everything, but it's weird to see a player like Griezmann not perform.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Also, I did want to kind of mention that Real Madrid didn't have, other than Ronaldo, which is a pretty big exit. I feel like, but I think we saw that coming a little bit.
Yeah.
They didn't have the departures that Barca did. Barca lost great players, notably a certain striker up top who has now come back to haunt them. Luis Suarez has had an excellent season. I think many Barcelona fans, when he left, were very confused by this move, and they've been proven rightly so.
Not only did he leave, he left for free.
He left for free, and not only did he leave for free, he left
to a league rival.
To a league rival, exactly.
I'm not complaining. He's a joint top scorer or a goal behind the one Lionel Messi in the race for the Pichichi, but Suarez, at least in league, he's proven he can still perform.
Oh, for sure.
Champions League, I think Champions League Suarez is kind of washed, but in league format, La Liga, Suarez is still best striker in the league, in my opinion.
I feel like his fighting spirit is what kind of keeps him going. I mean, I think physically, the writing has been on the wall for a little bit for him, and I think that's what when he left, people were like, there's a chance he kind of fizzles out, kind of like maybe another Atletico striker, Diego Costa, who has kind of lost his edge, but I think Suarez has proven that he still has it in the tank and providing some excellent goals at key moments for Atletico this season.
He's actually on pace to for Atletico to have in a debut season match the one and only Radamel Falcao, who had 24 goals in his debut season for Atletico, and
Correct.
Suarez is on pace to break that. So.
Yeah, what a season that was, too.
What a season that was.
Yep. Any other things you want to bring up about La Liga? Any other developments you've been seeing? Anything interesting?
Obviously you could talk about Valencia, which is a sad story. I have a lot of respect for Valencia and the club and the supporters, but their owner Peter Lim, he's been very vocal about he can do whatever he wants with the club, and obviously he's shown he's capable of that.
Yes.
One of my favorite managers in the world of football right now is Marcelino. So
yeah.
His success at Valencia was I enjoyed seeing it a lot, and then having Marcelino just get thrown to the dirt like that, it was very hard to watch because he's a great manager. He's already proven it in the short time he's been with the Atletico Bilbao.
He's been solid this season.
Yeah, and in the Supercopa, they got past Real Madrid and Barcelona. Real Madrid semifinals, and then Barcelona in the final. And now they have a chance to win 2 pieces of silverware in one season. Again, against Barcelona in the Copa del Rey final, a rematch of the 2015 Copa del Rey, where Leo Messi scored that iconic goal from the byline, and then he dribbled 6 players and finished.
One of the best goals of all time.
Best goal in a Copa del Rey final
for sure
ever. But I think that Atletico Bilbao side is so stubborn, So I think they could get the win over Barcelona.
They are always proved to be a bogey team for some of those top sides, in and out, especially when they're at home.
Right.
So I think it's going to be a great final. I can't wait to see what happens. But kind of going on to Valencia a little bit, there is that financial mismanagement. It's kind of interesting. You see in the Spanish clubs, it seems that there might be there needs to maybe be some more regulation or something, because unfortunately we're seeing this across the board at many clubs now. You look at many of the top clubs, and you're seeing large debt problems, ownership problems, management problems. What do you think can be done to fix that? Do you know?
Well, I mean, the easiest thing to point to is you look at Bundesliga clubs. They have the 51, shareholder to the supporters and all that, and it doesn't give, RB Leipzig is a different story, and that's a bit more complicated. But you look at traditional Bundesliga clubs, and a millionaire can't come in and get majority ownership of the club.
Yep.
So I feel like that allows Bundesliga clubs to be, obviously there's been like Hamburg, if you look at Hamburg, but
I'm not saying it's going to totally eliminate the problem. There's always going to be financial mismanagement.
It would stabilize.
But if you look at the league as a whole, for instance, in Germany,
it's a very well-run league.
Well-run league. I think even from top to bottom, you see a lot less of a problem. And I've seen as well in La Liga in the past few seasons, you've seen some problems at the bottom as well.
Yeah.
Where some of the teams are in massive debt at the point of almost having to just concede the season and not being able to continue.
I think a couple of the clubs that come to mind for me, at least, and very sad stories because they were clubs who had recent success in maybe the early 2000s or late 90s for La Liga, Deportivo La Coruña, and then Malaga.
Yep.
Where a certain Santi Cazorla played, and you see these clubs who do have long-standing tradition and history in La Liga, and because of just the financial struggles they've had, they've gone down a couple tiers, or they've had to just sell these great players. And
I think even that happens all the time in Spain, and I hate to see that. I think sometimes you see that in England as well, and we've seen that with like Bury and Bolton and stuff like that. And it really is a shame to see these clubs that were in the Champions League at one time, not be able to even like essentially have all that history erased. I think it's just it's a crying shame, and hopefully that will get fixed sooner rather than later. Lots of problems in football right now. Financial mismanagement, FIFA human rights issues. But best of luck to La Liga going forward, and the title race is on.
Oh, yeah. I'm hoping Atletico will see it out, but they've proven throughout the season they can drop form, but I think with Champions League out of the way, they got knocked out Copa del Rey very early, so I think priority is the league. They haven't won it since 2014, so I think they'll see it out.
Fair enough. Moving on, Serie A. Let's talk about Serie A.
I love me some Serie A.
We at the top, we have Inter. Inter have been in fine form this season, but it has been a season of up and downs. At one point, it seemed Conte was going to leave, and then he came to an agreement with the ownership, decided he would see it out this season to see how it went, and man, has it gone well. Amazing form from the likes of Romelu Lukaku, Lautaro Martinez. At the back as well, Handanovic has had an excellent season.
He has had a great season.
What do you think has been the key to their success so far?
I think going out in the group stage of the Champions League, everyone was talking like it was a big controversy. Everyone expected a lot from this Inter Milan side. There had been money, pumped into it. They brought in these great talents like Romelu Lukaku, stand out. Made it to Europa League final, so they showed they could succeed in Europe, but then their group stage was poor, but outside of all that, they performed in the league. Everyone was so focused on their fallout of the Champions League, but they just Conte, and you can ask a lot of Juventus supporters. Conte is a Serie A manager. He's not a Champions League manager.
No, he's not. I don't think he's really that's ever been his focus. I mean, I always think about his time at Chelsea as well when he brought in that league, and he wasn't as successful in Europe, but let me tell you, he was able to totally revamp that Chelsea squad and get them title challenging and eventually winning it. It seems like he's done it again with Inter Milan. I mean, I'm so surprised, and I for one definitely thought Juventus would do it again. Obviously, they've had a weaker squad than normal, but I don't know. I can't bet against a team that has the great Cristiano Ronaldo on it, but it seems like they've done it.
I believed if this was the season Juventus were going to fall short, it was this season.
Okay.
Yeah, I expected them to be more in the race than they are now, but I still didn't see them finishing. It was very surprising to see Milan make the jump they did. Because, under Gattuso, they weren't the worst side in the league, and they ended up making European football, but then Gattuso was sacked, and they brought in Stefano Pioli, and man, he's done great things with the squad. And it's unfortunate they had so many injuries to their team because,
For sure.
you know, it's nice to see a Milan team bring back the Scudetto because I don't think there's anyone. And there's no doubt in anyone's mind that it's gonna be Inter Milan.
Yeah.
And you just see they're consistently picking up points, or they're picking up points when it's necessary. You know, it might
Against
not
the
be
big teams as well.
Yeah, and it might not be the best performance from them, but
No.
they get the points, and that's what a championship team.
That's how it's always been
Yeah.
under Conte, though. I feel like that's a trademark of a Conte team to play, not be scintillating football, but just pick up results over and over and over again. And he's proven it in Serie A so many times, and it looks like Inter Milan have got this one in the bag.
Yeah.
But we were talking about AC Milan. I was very, very impressed at the impact that the likes of Ibrahimovic has had.
Yeah.
And Hakan Çalhanoğlu. I mean, really, I thought his career was kind of waning. Of course, he's shown it. He's shown moments of brilliance for Milan in the past seasons, but he's really taken it up a level this season.
He has, and if you go back, I think it was 2016, 2017, he was banned from playing for the Turkish national team. He came to a mutual agreement with Hamburg, it was Bayer Leverkusen to terminate his contract. So he was kind of out of football, and then AC Milan picked him up, and he was their creative player, but they played him more on the wing.
Yep.
Because they didn't have wingers. But now that they have more the personnel, and Hakan can play that 10 role.
He was in the central. I say that's changed everything.
He's a fantastic player, and he scored over the World Cup qualifying campaign going on right now. So he's definitely a standout player for AC Milan, and another you can look at, although his goal scoring form isn't the likes of Ibrahimovic. Ante Rebic has done very well.
He has had a great season. I mean, I remember watching him at the World Cup, and he was excellent there as well. He's always shown flashes of brilliance. Where was he at before Milan again? He was in Germany, right?
He was at Frankfurt.
Frankfurt,
It
yeah.
was Jovic, Haller, and Rebic.
Oh my gosh, that's a front three right there.
That was a very exciting front three.
Fun team to watch. But yeah, he has been excellent for them. He's kind of like a second striker for them. That's kind of how I see him play. Got a good shot on him, and he's able to kind of provide some of those goals that have been really necessary for them to make that climb up the table. Unfortunately, injuries as well. But lastly, I just want to talk about Kessié. Kessié has been excellent as well this season. So I think sometimes we always look at the goal scoring, but and he does score goals. But
he's a clinical penalty taker.
He is a clinical penalty taker. He's provided many goals from the spot this season. But he is a workhorse in that midfield. I think luckily, I think without him, I don't know if they'd be even challenging at all. So definitely another player to highlight. And then finally, we move down to Juventus.
Well, Juventus. Personal bias aside, they've been a shadow of the club they were in previous seasons, and I think that comes down to, again, financial mismanagement, bringing in players and giving them high wages, and then
likes of Aaron Ramsey at $400,000 a week.
Aaron Ramsey, Emre Can, Adrian Rabiot, like you have all these players, Bentancur.
The thing that characterizes Juventus for me is a lot of high paid players that are average.
Yeah.
They're not terrible, but they're not world class players. And for a side like Juventus, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
And I think when you around someone like a Ronaldo, there's only so much he can do when he doesn't have, the firepower around him. Luckily, Chiesa has been excellent this season, and I think that without him, maybe they would have been even lower down the table, which is crazy. Yeah. But I don't know, when I look at a front three of a Morata, I guess not a front three for them, but a front three of Morata, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Chiesa, that doesn't quite strike fear into the opponents, like maybe the likes of a Liverpool or a Manchester City or a Bayern Munich, for instance. I just think that they don't have the quality, or even like an Inter. I think Inter's front three just much stronger.
Yeah.
I think they have their attack is more balanced across the board, where teams are going in against Juventus and saying, okay, we need to stop Ronaldo.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Ronaldo, in his time with Juventus and Real Madrid, he was the main goal-scoring threat that teams, have to look out for and have to shut down. But it's different because at Real Madrid, they had Bale, who was in good form at the time, Benzema, who's been consistent. You had players from midfield who could score, like Asensio, Modric, Casemiro even came up with a goal or two every now and then. And, Toni Kroos provided all the assists, and then Sergio Ramos was able to bag like 4 or 5 goals a season. So you have all these other goal scoring threats in Real Madrid team who maybe aren't as prominent as Cristiano Ronaldo. But then you look at this Juventus team, and I think the next top scorer has like 9 or 10 goals, where Ronaldo is sitting on a 19-20 goal season currently at the moment. So
yeah, I think that's been the big difference for Juventus so far, and I'm really curious as who they're going to sign, because it's very obvious they need some quality injected into that side. And are they in the race for Holland? I don't feel like they are.
No, I wouldn't say they are, but I really don't think it's the forwards you have to look at. You can make that work, but you look at the midfield, and then you look at Bonucci, Chiellini, who are coming to the later stages of the career. But like you said, like Artur hasn't been performing. No. Like Adrian Rabiot showed promise at PSG, but he's getting the paycheck at Juventus not to perform, just to like be a part of the rotational squad.
He's been okay. I mean,
he's been okay.
He's come up with the occasional big goal, but I just think you're right. Like as a whole, he's not good enough for Juventus. Right. I mean, I think we can agree with that about that.
And I think the problem with it was such a big story, Juventus signing Cristiano Ronaldo, but they didn't really build around him.
No, I think maybe that's where all their money went, and then they checked the bank account. It said 0, or it's like negative 60 million.
Well, back to like financial mismanagement, we mentioned it earlier, all these average players on high wages. So you have average players who maybe you signed for a free, or you signed for a really low fee at the time, but then you're giving them these big wages on top of the Cristiano Ronaldo wages you already have to make. And they make some of it back in shirt sales and merchandising and sponsors and all of that, but they've really put themselves in a hole for the future and the present. They have a lot of ground to make up, and I think the only way for Juventus to really go forward is to kind of go backwards. So
interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting take on all that. I'm really curious, are we going to go back to the mid 2000s when it was the 2 Milan teams up top, and Juventus was not quite in that conversation, but we'll see. I think Inter are kind of in a good position to kind of.
Yeah.
When I look at them, yes, they spent money and not everything worked for sure.
Right.
But they have pieces that have a lot of value. I mean, like I saw a rumor that Chelsea are in for Romelu Lukaku. I mean, imagine the money that would be. That'd be a lot of money.
I would be very hard. For me, it's hard to see that transfer happening. Just you can see how happy Romelu is alongside Lautaro Martinez, but he's also, they're obviously, this is kind of going out of it, but the racial side of the game in Italy is a bit more of a problem than in other leagues. But overall, it seems like Lukaku is he's very happy where he is, at least at this moment in time.
He's scoring goals. Career. He likes to score goals.
And I think it will help Lukaku's legacy to finally bring in a piece of silverware.
Oh, for sure. And I think also it was all him. Like, obviously he had a lot of help around him, but I think he was the main man. He's the main man that did it, and I think that is going to be a big step for him in his career and could really propel him to new heights. I've always been a fan of Lukaku. Obviously, didn't have his best days at Manchester United, but really has found his form for Inter this season. But I mean, when we look at the bottom side of the Serie A table, the relegation battle, it's interesting to see a team like Cagliari down there and Torino. What's happened there?
It's just with the Torino squad, I think it's more the core players they've had in the squad for so long, and they're not able to compete at that level anymore. And Andrea Bellotti is only gonna do so much with the likes of Rincon in the side, you know.
Yeah.
Rincon, like established Serie A players, they've been playing there for years, but you know, it's with a lot of those players in the Torino squad that have been playing in Serie A for a long time. It's towards the end of the how often they can compete at the level Serie A demands. And then with Cagliari, it's very interesting because they have the likes of Raja Nainggolan. They signed Diego Godin from Inter Milan. He didn't have the greatest season with Inter Milan, but he's still a solid center back. And then they have João Pedro up front, who's their main goal scoring threat. I just don't think they're a well managed side.
Yeah, I'm cannot believe the other two don't surprise me quite as much.
Yeah.
But between those two teams in that relegation battle, I was just so shocked. Usually, especially with Torino, to see someone like an Andrea Bellotti. Usually, when you have a proven goal scorer in a league, it's very hard to go down.
Right.
You see that in the Premier League. The proven the relegation teams with the proven goal scorers end up being the ones that stay up. And it looks like it might happen. It might actually happen. We'll see.
Yeah.
As there's still some games to go and a lot can change, but what would happen? I know there's been a lot of rumors as if Bellotti might leave in these past few seasons. I mean, surely if they go down, he's got to go. What Serie A side do you think would be interesting in picking up someone like an Andrea Bellotti?
It's hard to kind of see where he might go. Obviously, Juventus might be the first name that pops up, and I know Milan were in for him, but it's a similar situation to Zaha at Palace. Torino are demanding a lot of money for this player because he is their main player. He's their man, and Torino rightfully deserve money for that player, but at the same time, Bellotti might have to push for that kind of move, and I can't really see a top four side going for him. Dzeko, but Roma have Borja, and they have Dzeko's kind of getting older, and Borja, they brought in Borja to kind of not fill Dzeko's role, but be that second striker. And
yeah, I think Roma could be a fit. Maybe one of the more mid-table teams that hasn't been spending as much.
Yeah.
The thing I will say is, being a fan of a club that got relegated, if Bellotti gets relegated, it's not only Bellotti gets relegated. If Torino gets relegated, it's not like, oh, Bellotti, wants to leave or whatever. It's just straight up that price tag that might have been 50, 60 million, at one point, is going to be more like 15 to 20.
Right.
And then you could see some of those mid-table teams step in for a proven goal scorer like that.
It's especially with what's going on in the world right now and how the market has been working since the COVID pandemic. I don't know if Bellotti will ever leave Torino. It's just such a weird. He's 28, 29 at the moment, so if he's gonna move, it's got to be now.
Oh, I think he'll move. I think no matter what happens this season, he'll move.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't see. I don't think there's there's very select few teams. It could be he could move outside of Serie A.
I don't see that happening either.
Yeah.
But I really think that he'll move to maybe something like a Roma, but more even just to like a more mid-table team.
Yeah.
I think any of the mid-table teams would love to have someone like
any Serie A.
And I think for a 15 to 20 million euros, or maybe more, depending on if they get relegated, that's where I think he would go for, maybe 30. I think that's a good bargain in this market.
I think a team like, Fiorentina have their own struggles right now, but I think he could bring a lot to the Fiorentina team, and they could use a solid number 9. They haven't really had a number 9 in recent seasons and seasons past, but
they seem like a team that could really use his services.
Fiorentina,
100%. Maybe we'll see it. All right, Bellotti to Fiorentina. That's the rumor.
You heard it here first.
Heard it here first. All right, moving on. Let's talk a little bit about the Euros. What do you think about the Euros?
I can't wait. Everybody loves knockout football, and I can't wait to finally have it back. And the Euros is this huge competition, and I was very skeptical in 2016 when they went to the 48-team format, but it ended up working out very well.
Yeah.
But this current Euros, it's everyone looks at France just because how
You
they
say
performed
that
in the World Cup.
This week they drew against, what was it, Ukraine?
Yep, Ukraine 1-1.
That's not good enough.
I know we've talked, and you're a big supporter of Portugal.
Oh yeah, I think Portugal has gotta be the one to defend their Euros from last European Championship. I think they have an even better squad, much better squad, and I think they have the experience. They have some youth. They have some younger players that they're hungry,
right.
like a Joao Felix, or even a Bernardo Silva. I mean, obviously he's not that young, but I think they have everything across that whole side to win another knockout tournament. And I think, wow, what a change to Ronaldo's legacy if he could do it again.
Yeah.
I think that would really separate him from Messi. We always talk about the Messi-Ronaldo debate.
Yeah,
My goodness. I think international, we look at Ronaldo as someone who's proven it over and over and over again on the international stage.
Right.
But man, if he could do it again, it would be crazy. So yeah, that's my pick for the Euros. But more than anything, I'm just happy to have knockout football again, back again, since really the World Cup, which was 3 years ago, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
And I mean, we had Nations League, and obviously that was some knockout football, if you like. But Copa America as well. We're talking more in Europe, but for sure, yeah, Copa America is always great. But I cannot wait to just watch some good international football with something on the line.
Yeah.
Because even with Nations League, it's not the same. No, when the build-up, the teams aren't playing their full 11s, whatever. People care about the Euros.
Yeah.
You're going to want to see the best teams show up. And also, I think we have a lot better competition. I mean, the latest batch of European players has been really strong. You look at someone like maybe England. Obviously, they did well in the World Cup, but their squad's looking really strong going into this European Championships, where last Euros they kind of crashed out to a certain Iceland. So
who's your dark horse for the tournament?
My dark horse for the tournament. I would say my dark horse. My dark horse, I would go with Spain. I know it's not really a dark horse, but I there's just something about Spain that when they get going, they have that same thing that Portugal have is in that they have the mix of youth and experience.
Yeah.
The only thing I will say is that they are a little bit weak up top.
Right.
With a certain Alvaro Morata leading the line. I don't really trust him as a striker, but across the rest of the squad, you have some good players. Also, I look at someone like a Croatia again. I think could be strong again. I think again they have the experience from the World Cup. I wouldn't be surprised if they do well again at the European Championships. But yeah, those are probably my dark horses. Now moving on, the Premier League. We were talking about some of Portugal's great players. Bernardo Silva being one at City. City, what an amazing season so far. They've been absolutely stellar since about the midpoint of the season. Forget the unbeaten run they were on. It was crazy. Just absolutely demolishing the rest of the league. Pretty much certain to win the league at this point.
Oh, yeah.
With Manchester United quite a ways back. What do you think about their season so far?
I think it's been a fantastic season. I think Pep deserves all the credit he can get for kind of, going at it from a different tactical point of view than maybe what he was previously known for, and it working out. And he's brought in a couple key players that have really changed the side.
Well, that's always what Pep does. Come on, he has he's got the pockets.
He's got the pockets, but not only that, he's given Foden time to shine, and Foden has taken that
amazing season from him so far.
He's gonna be a great player. Not sure about his haircut, but he's gonna be a fantastic player.
Yeah.
He's already proven he is a fantastic player, especially at that age. So I'm we talked about it a bit, but the Stones Diaz partnership.
I was gonna say, I mean, obviously there's been some news about it because they've just had so many clean sheets this year. But really, I like to look at the whole back line.
Yeah.
A lot of people criticize Pep for not developing players and just buying players, and this is rampant upon the squad that we look at right now. But you look at someone like Stones. Stones has developed a lot under Pep.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's taken a little while, but I mean, if you would have told me that John Stones would be starting and be one of the best, if not the best center back in the league, in the Premier League, this season, I would have said at the beginning of the season, I would have said you were absolutely crazy.
Not only that, he's bagged like 6 or 7 goals.
Yeah, no, he's been a threat on set pieces, and I cannot believe the season he's having, and I know all England fans must be super happy because wow, they've been missing a center back like that for a while. Obviously, Maguire quite solid as well, but John Stones is in the form of his life. I'm really curious to see if this is a development or just a patch of form that he's on, because I mean, we've seen the quality in him at certain moments, but especially when he was really young, he was a valued prospect up there with like a Kurt Zuma, but I think a lot of people thought that Kurt Zuma was the better buy.
Yeah.
And he's had a good season for Chelsea. However, John Stones has been excellent. And Ruben Diaz, don't discount a very good signing from Pep Guardiola, even though it was quite a bit of money. But what else is new? And then we look at the race for the top 4. I mean, you have Leicester in there. You have, obviously, Manchester United in second. Chelsea. And then lagging behind even, you have, fourth, you have also West Ham, which I do not think many people saw coming. And the likes of Tottenham. What do you think about that top 4 race? Do you think Chelsea have the minerals to stay in that top 4? They're in great form right now.
I think West Ham being only 2 points behind, it's going to go down to the wire. But I think Chelsea will get top 4. And, it'll be upsetting for West Ham supporters and West Ham as a club to miss out on top 4. But if you're obviously Champions League money that they'll make. But, wow, like, even European football coming off the past 2 seasons for West Ham. Oh, my goodness. Like, it's like...
No, that's a dream. I mean, they were pitted for relegation. There was we talked about the financial mismanagement.
Yeah.
Many pitted them as a club that were undergoing financial mismanagement. And I think actually you look at some of the signings they've made over the years, they have been financially mismanaged, but maybe some of that was tactical mismanagement, because you look at how David Moyes has invigorated the squad. I can't believe I'm saying that, but he has absolutely done an amazing job with the likes of some of the signings that had been made in the past seasons, but have now really found their form.
Right.
Obviously Mikel Antonio has always been a constant for them. He's been in great form this season. He's also cut some of the deadwood that he saw. I mean, even though I was a big fan of Sebastian Haller, he dealt him out and in favor of some of the other options. Bowen has had a very, very good season. That's proven to be a good signing.
I think the standout player for West Ham, obviously, you look at Thomas Souček.
Oh my gosh, Souček has been a revelation for them.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Obviously he's not maybe a defensive midfielder as much of a center mid, but how does he score so many goals? You wouldn't say. It seems like he's like. It's either him or he scores as many goals as the rest of the team combined. Yeah. Even though I know that's not the case, he always comes up with a clutch goal.
And he's only gone and scored a hat trick yesterday.
Oh my gosh!
Or 2 days ago for European qualifying for the World Cup. So
he's class.
He's a fun player to watch, and especially with it's kind of funny to see a player of his height just storm into the box, and his clinical ability to finish is.
Great finishing ability from a midfielder. And he just has a very complete game as well.
Yeah.
I think that's what I think if you would have going into this season, most people would have said Declan Rice is the standout in the midfield, and really I think Souček has been the one. And even a Moyes signing over the January window, Jesse Lingard.
Yeah.
What a run of form he is on. Found himself in the England squad again.
He
has. Who would have thought? David Moyes masterclass, hands down, amazing season from West Ham so far. I'm also agree with you. Probably not going to make top 4, but I think anything above 7th for them, they'll be ecstatic.
Right.
I mean, I think any West Ham fan would have taken 15th at the beginning of the season. So, very exciting. And then we look at Tottenham. What an up and down season for them. I mean, crazy stuff. They bring in Jose Mourinho. They sign Bale. You know, they have all these. They have a loaded squad full of talents. But that defense just keeps hurting them. It's like their Achilles heel.
Yeah.
You look at a team that has Kane, Son, and Bale up as a front 3, and you're like, how could they not be in the top 4? But then you look at the back and realize Eric Dyer is starting in Davinson Sanchez in the center back positions. That has been just a disaster for them. I
think Doherty he's a quality player, but he's not a Mourinho player.
Not at all. He's not a Mourinho player. Also, he's not a true right back.
Yeah.
He's a right wing back, and I think that's been a struggle because Mourinho likes to play a flat 4.
Yeah.
Especially when you're lacking center backs, that's going to be an issue to play a back 5 or a back 3. Really, I can't believe that I know they've had some injuries, but do you think they can make a late push into the top 4?
I just don't see it happening. It's the start of this Premier League season was very wild. One week you had talks of City not making, top 4, and then the next week you had Tottenham pushing for the title, and then the next week you had Liverpool falling off of form. It was like all these clubs who you expected to do well fell off, and then some have recovered, some haven't. Liverpool haven't really recovered, and granted, they've had tons of injuries to key players in the squad, and City have done well to adapt to what they were going through in the league, and then Tottenham have just been consistently poor. Like, they haven't looked good. They've shown moments that
they're scoring 6 goals, right?
Yeah.
And then the next game they're conceding 3 to the likes of Dinamo Zagreb.
You open up the season putting 6 past, it's not the best United side in the world, but 6 past United at Old Trafford. And wow, what a performance from the team it was. Yeah. And then Orsic just comes in with a hat trick. I know this is later in the season and, a lot has happened since then, but Orsic just strolled past Tottenham.
Yeah, and that kind of brings us on to Europa League. I mean, I really thought Tottenham were the favorites there. I mean, they were just demolishing some of those other sides.
Yeah.
And then they come up against Dinamo Zagreb, a good team, very solid Dinamo Zagreb team. Not, I think a lot of people underestimated them as a side, but a shocking performance in that second leg. Got to be the low point of the season. Some are calling for Mourinho's head as Europa League seemed to be the competition that would not only guarantee them Champions League, but finally get that ever-elusive trophy for Tottenham.
But the EFL Cup, maybe not the same prowess as Europa League title, but they're still not out of a silverware opportunity yet. But, they face the mighty Manchester City in the finals. So.
Exactly, and that kind of brings us to that point. Do you think they have the minerals to actually pull through and beat Pep's scalding hot City side?
If there was ever a bogey team for Manchester City, it has proven to be Spurs time again. But we've said this in previous City and Spurs meetings before. It's hard to see not City, coming out on top, but. I'm gonna say it again. It's hard to see City not just seeing it out.
I'm gonna go against this. I think that Mourinho is gonna do it. I think he's gonna do it. I can't believe I'm saying this, and I'm betting on Spurs, which is just a terrible idea. I don't know what I'm thinking, but I think they're gonna do it. And that brings the question. I just want to touch on this real quick. If Mourinho wins against City in the EFL Cup final, brings the ever elusive trophy to Spurs. First of all, first question, is this a successful season for Spurs? He finishes outside of top 4.
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense, he does bring silverware back to a club that has been searching for it for so long, but then at least in my opinion, there's that kind of like what if to the season that they started off. So, yeah, I think it'll be nice for those players to have a piece of silverware to lift, but at the same time, it's just there's a sour taste left in the mouth from going from challenging the Premier League at one point and being top of the table at Christmas or around that time, and being strong favorites or one of the favorites in Europa League to EFL Cup.
Yeah, and especially it's the EFL Cup, not even the FA Cup. I kind of agree with you, but at the same time, I think it's still a success just because of Spurs. Spurs are just, that has always been the thing that they get picked on for, and they can't seem to get over the line. And I think if that's what they brought him in to do, is to win a trophy. And if he does that, I think that would be a successful season, even though maybe the media doesn't necessarily agree.
Right.
The interesting thing is, if he loses or if he wins, do you think they'll keep him? Do you think if he loses, I think he probably goes, I'd imagine, and they finish outside the top 4, right? I think probably going to be no more Mourinho, I'd imagine. If he wins, though, some people are saying even if he wins, that they would sack him.
Obviously, it's not the same circumstances, but it seems very similar to a Van Gaal at United situation. He ended up winning the EFL Cup, and there was higher expectations for him.
I don't think that's the same thing, and the reason for that is that United are expected to win trophies.
Yeah.
Where I feel like Spurs don't feel the same way.
That's good take.
But I think you're right in the same way. There are similarities between Van Gaal and Mourinho because they both play a style of football that's not necessarily valued by a lot of people. So I think that's a good comparison, but I tend to think that if he wins it, he should stay. But we'll see. Enough about Tottenham. Another one of the big players in the PL, Liverpool. What an interesting season from them.
Yeah.
Really looked like favorites for the title going into this season, obviously, after an amazing last season. Just has totally fallen off.
I think it's you look at how rigorously Liverpool have been, playing their style of football, the high press, consistent running, like all this, all that, like constantly working themselves. And you look at, they've been doing that since Klopp took over in 2016, and they have shown success, but you see the injuries coming in after that period of time. And I think a lot of people saw it with the battering by Villa, 7-2. Under Klopp, when have you heard of Liverpool conceding 7 in one match? So obviously that raised some eyebrows, and with the unfortunate injuries they've had with Van Dijk, Joe Gomez, Jordan Henderson, Joel Matip.
Hey, hold on. Don't try and name them all. We'll be here all day long if we try and name every injury that Liverpool's had this season. Yeah, they've been mighty unfortunate.
It's been unfortunate, but at the same time, I don't think I won't say anyone expected this fall off, but when you do kind of look at previous seasons and what they've been doing, it's not just out of the blue kind of thing.
The one thing I will say is I think they have so much quality within that squad. Yeah. I think that's why Liverpool fans are a bit disappointed, or just people in general are so shocked by this. Right. It's like, wow, I mean, yeah, okay, Henderson gets hurt or something. You just bring in Thiago Alcantara, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then of course, they've had injuries where it's like they're playing a U21 side. I'm not trying to say that it's been that way for the whole season. They haven't had the consistency. I think that's what's really killed them. Right. And I think that's what Liverpool thrives on. They're a very consistent team most of the time. This season, it just hasn't been working, but it's not over yet. They still have a chance to sneak into that top 4. I don't know if they'll do it.
I think top 6 is more realistic.
Gosh, if you would have said that at the beginning of the season, I would have just been like, you are crazy. Yeah. We'll see, though. Going to be some very important matches for Liverpool down the stretch.
I think, they do have the Madrid tie to think about, too. So it's very, I'm very interested to see how Liverpool cope with the games ahead. So,
But they've done it before. They've been in this
They've done it
situation before, and I think that will help them as they go into this final stretch. Will it be enough? We'll have to wait and see.
yeah.
Moving on, the relegation battle in the Premier League. It's been unexpected. We've had some teams that I think were shoo-ins for the relegation battle that haven't really played as expected. You look at maybe a West Ham or maybe a Brighton. You look, and while Brighton are still not technically safe, but then we look at something like Newcastle United, or we look at Fulham, which I guess I thought they were going to get relegated, but a lot of people had them actually staying up. They spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
Who do you see as that bottom three? Right now we have obviously, and let's not forget, Sheffield United.
Yeah.
Man, finishing 7th last year or 8th?
Yep.
Dead last, 100% going to get relegated. I don't think anybody saw that coming.
I can't say I know a lot about Sheffield United, but I did pay attention to their first season back in the Premier League for, many years, and Chris Wilder and that story of him getting sacked, and it's just very interesting. Sheffield coming from the Championship and doing so well, at one point fighting for European football in the top 6 Europa League, and then the next season just complete dead last. Maybe there's stuff that's happened behind the scenes at the club, and players not performing, but it's been a very upsetting fall.
Also, I was just so shocked because their pride and joy was their defense.
Yeah.
They didn't score many goals even last season. And usually that's pretty tough to do. If you don't score many goals in the Premier League, you're going to be in for it.
Yeah.
But their defense was rock solid. You look at the likes of John Egan and what's his name? Their center back partnerships in that back five were just unbelievable. It seemed like even if one of their center backs got hurt, they could just sub them in, and they had the what's his name in midfield, Berga.
Oh, Sander Berga.
He's great player. They got timely goals from the likes of McGoldrick, Ollie McBurney. They would pop in with crucial goals against top opposition. Almost, I hate to say this, maybe like an Atletico style of that counterattack.
Yeah.
But more than that, just rock solid defense. You look at this season, they can't keep goals out of the back of their net for fun. They're just conceding over and over and over and over again, and they haven't had that consistency in the back that they had last season at all. Obviously, Wilder having just this crazy behind the scenes that was just released actually that he tried to resign, and he tried to resign twice, but the reason was because he wanted to get a severance payment of £4 million, and the club was like, no, we don't want to give you. That's what he makes in a year.
Yeah. And
the club was like, no, we wanted you to stay, and we think you can keep doing well. And the owner went on Sky Sports and talked about it, and it was a really interesting interview. If you haven't taken a look at it already, but it seems like their ownership and management is just in a total mess right now of a situation, and there's talks of maybe Eddie Howe coming in for them when they go down the Championship. And Newcastle, talk about the financial mismanagement there. I mean, Mike Ashley at the helm, Steve Bruce not really getting the best out of that squad. You look at some of their summer signings, you'd think, my goodness, they might be mid-table, maybe even 9th, 8th, something like that.
Right.
Absolutely the opposite. Steve Bruce has just been struggling. Some of those post-match interviews are hard to watch for Newcastle fans. And after the proposed takeover by the Saudi king in the summer for $300 million, people were saying Messi to Newcastle. It really hasn't happened for Newcastle this season. They might be in the Championship instead of the Champions League. You know what I mean? So cannot believe that they're even in this battle, but Fulham have really found some form recently. Could be a nasty thing to see them drop down into that 18th spot.
Yeah.
The final few days of the season.
I would be very interested. Like you're saying, summer signings haven't been performing for Newcastle, and they've had a poor run of form. And with Callum Wilson being injured, bringing in the almighty Andy Carroll, whose goal scoring prowess isn't maybe what it once was.
Oh, well, don't forget about Joelinton. I mean, what a great striker. Absolutely proven in the league.
His return is remarkable.
They've struggled for goals this season, which is interesting because when I think of Callum Wilson, proven goal scorer, and he has scored quite a few goals this season, but other than that, nothing. Yeah. Absolutely nothing. And I don't think that's going to be enough. And I don't know, especially the second half of the season, Fulham have looked good.
They have, and the main player you can look to is Josh Maha, who's been, Fulham's outlet for goals in at least in the second half of the season. And Mitrovic has been struggling for goals. Mitrovic has been Fulham's go-to guy for at least 3 years now. So not having him be as consistent as he was, and Josh Maha stepping up has really helped them and saved them in the fight for relegation. But also, Mitrovic just scored in World Cup qualifying.
I saw that. If he could kick on for Fulham, wow, that would be huge.
So I'm very interested to see. It was a fantastic chip finish too. So if that confidence can transfer over to Fulham, I think Fulham will edge Newcastle in the relegation battle.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. I still think Newcastle will stay up. Yeah. It's going to be really close. The one thing I will say about Fulham, when you look at the beginning, at the first few games of the season, it looked like they were certain to go down.
Yeah.
Their defense looked like an absolute shambles. They've really made some shrewd signings in the winter window to kind of shore up that defense.
Yeah.
And when I look at the two defenses between Newcastle and Fulham, I think Fulham is much stronger than Newcastle. So I think it's really going to come down to who can stop the goals.
Yeah.
And I don't know, actually, now that I think about it, Fulham might stay up. The only thing is Newcastle are 3 points in a game in hand, I think, above Fulham. So they're in the better position right now, but on form, it looks like Fulham are going to make it a tight race.
Yep, it'll be very interesting to watch, and I personally hope Fulham stay up. Just because I don't know, I don't love Fulham as a club. It would be interesting to see them come off of this form and then go into next season and have the ability to use that in the Premier League and see where they go.
I think also people see Scott Parker, their manager, as a more long-term stay at the club. A lot of people rate him, and I think that we all know that no matter what happens this season, Steve Bruce is probably not going to be the guy for Newcastle going forward. And also Newcastle seem to be so stagnant that unless they get relegated, I don't see Mike Ashley and Steve Bruce being the ones to reinvigorate the club. But that's what I thought about West Ham last season. They proved us wrong. So we'll see. And stay tuned for more news in the football community. And we'll see you next time
on the Levels Podcast.
Bye.